There's not one guy, one person in the history of this program that's bigger than the program.
Welcome to the Program Guys Positional Preview Podcast. This is the moment we've all been waiting for. The Program Guys taking on the quarterback position headed into 2023. Joined by Program Guys Mason Prince and Matt Gann. I'm your host on this mini-series journey through the preview of the Oklahoma roster. And quarterback is the most important position on the field. Matt Gann, when I say 2022 Oklahoma quarterback, what do you think?
I think an okay year. I think stat-wise for Dillon Gabriel is what we expected from his numbers for UCF and the high-powered offense. But we know what we're going to get out of DG. Can he take a step above in 2023? I'm really not sure based on what we saw from last year. You only hope because the team will only go as far as Dillon Gabriel can lead us. So hopefully he can take a couple steps up. But honestly, throwing for over 3,500 yards, 25 passing touchdowns, 3,100 yards, 25 touchdowns, and only 6 picks. That's pretty good for a guy not turning over the ball and having a lot of yards. Just at times, got to do a little bit better. So hopefully we can see that in a new system, or not a new system, new year, new offense.
Mason, you're a pretty staunch Dillon Gabriel guy headed into the new year. As you look back at last season, what are the things you think? I guess what were your expectations, and then how did he match up?
So I think when he came in, I think my expectations, along with a lot of other people's, was that he's going to be a Heisman caliber quarterback. With Jeff Libby's system, familiarity with the system, with the talent he had around him, I feel like a lot of people, including myself, thought that there wasn't any way that he wasn't going to be in New York come December. Obviously things happen, injuries happen. The team doesn't perform the way it's supposed to on both sides of the ball. And that affects, what your outlook on a quarterback is. Now, say that team went 9-3 instead of 7-6. I think people feel a lot different about Dillon Gabriel coming into this year than they did last year. And you think about it, if he played 2 of the games he was injured, maybe you are 9-3. You know what I mean? So, and you in the season, a 10-win season, you win a bowl game. So maybe you do get there. Well, actually, you'd be 9-3 still because you'd win the bowl game, 12 games. Regardless, whatever it is, I think Dillon has a ton of potential as a great college quarterback. Do I think Dillon's going to go to the NFL and be a guy? No, I don't. But Max Duggan, we saw get cut from an NFL roster just the other day. He led a team to a national championship appearance. So Dillon can still be a guy like that. He can still be a guy who carries a team. He's good enough to do that. He's talented enough to do that. It's just about, one, staying on the field, which I feel like he will. And number 2, it's going to be about, can he get the ball to his receivers and his playmakers efficiently enough, which this is what this offense is about. You have to be efficient. You have to hit the throws. And he didn't hit some of the throws last year. And we saw him be inaccurate at times, especially on critical downs like 3rd down and 4th down. He was inaccurate, and that's a problem, and that's something he knows he's going to have to fix. I don't know if I answered your question in its entirety. I feel like I kind of went off on a
Great
tangent.
answer. Great answer.
No, you did great. Something that it's not directly the quarterback's fault, but the quarterback is the conductor of the offense, and Oklahoma tied for the fifth most third downs attempted in the country last season, and only converted 49th best. So that's the 5th most tries and converting like you're number 50 in the country at it. That's just not good enough. And I think what we're going to have to see, what I expected to see more of last season, is the gimmies. Like, it's not even the really, really difficult plays. Gabriel's got a good deep ball. He throws a fine deep ball. Last season, we had dudes who just were averse to catching it. So many drop touchdowns for just no good reason. It seemed like, oh, there's a little bit of rain. Let me take them off. Let me take the gloves back on. All kinds of crazy stuff going on. The ball's where it needs to be on those plays. What I'm worried about is Dillon Gabriel is generously listed at 6 feet tall. I bet he is a little shorter than that. And there isn't an offensive lineman. There isn't a starting offensive lineman shorter than what, 6'3", 6'2", maybe. So every single play is just a different kind of challenge for Dillon. That last season, I thought there were too many times, 3rd and 8, he just can't get to a guy because he can't see him. There's not a throwing lane there. He ran the opposite direction when the pocket didn't quite break down. Hopefully, he's a little more aggressive in those situations, gets the ball out. But are you guys at all concerned about what I see as purely physical, maybe, issues with Dillon that we saw last year, and then maybe he overcomes them this year, but it's part of the conversation. He's just not tall, and he's not athletic enough. He's not Russell Wilson. He's not Kyler Murray. He's not Baker Mayfield. All of those guys were bouncing around the pocket like it was easy. And Dillon is more mobile than we saw last year. I don't have any doubt about that. But he doesn't have that pocket presence to move around in the same way. And at his size, it's almost a prerequisite if you're going to play big boy ball at Oklahoma. Matt, what do you think?
I think Mason hit on the head. Definitely expectations fell flat for what DG, the hype around him. And I think there's actually, for me, thinking about, there's a lot of meat that he actually left on the bone because of his accuracy issues, completing about 62% of his passes. And I think a lot of that, they showed a lot of clips of his footwork not being fundamentally sound and him sailing a lot of balls over people's heads. And you saw that either on deep throws or just even over crossing gimme throws. So I think accuracy was a big deal for him last year. I think that probably alludes to what you're talking to, Mark, maybe not being able to see people, his footwork, maybe a combination of this and that. But I think there is a lot of
I wonder if I'm misattributing it.
Maybe could be. I think there's a little bit of everything that goes into it. His height, his physical attributes, but his footwork has to be better, especially inside the pocket if he's going to be more of an accurate passer, because there was definitely guys open that he sailed the ball quite a few times, especially on those critical 3rd and 4th down plays. And especially when you run a high tempo offense, you're really leaving your defense out to dry when you cannot convert those 3rd downs. So I think there's potentially more that he can work with. Again, he had some of the best stats in the Big 12 when it comes to yards and passing touchdowns. If he just made a couple more throws, he could have easily been number 1 in those categories. So I think there's a little bit more meat on the bone that DG can improve about. And I think another year in Jeff Levy's system can definitely help that out.
So you look at, I'm going to jump in, Mark. Sorry.
Lead it.
You look at Dillon in his size, and Mark's 100% right. You can't change the fact that he's 5'11", 6 foot on a good day, right? That's just not going to change. So how do we remedy that, right? The main thing of it, look at other quarterbacks in the NFL who succeed. What's Russell Wilson great at? His timing and his accuracy. What's Tua Tagovailoa good at? A shorter stature guy. Accuracy and timing is a massive part of Tua's game as well. Other
falling down now.
Jiu-jitsu. Don't get me started. And so smaller quarterbacks like that, when you're not as athletically gifted as well, you have to rely on Matt mentioned, guys, I'm struggling tonight. His footwork has got to be better. His timing is going to have to be better. And that all in turns relates to your accuracy. So those problems get fixed. A lot of the problems that people have with Dillon, namely Ryan Tyson, his accuracy gets fixed by solving those two things. So if Dillon can just improve as a quarterback, which I know it sounds stupid and redundant, but genuinely, if he can improve as a processing quarterback, he can be really good. I'm not saying he's going to, beat Caleb Williams out for the Heisman, but I'm telling you, he's a guy who can throw for near 5,000 yards and produce at a very, very high level.
And when you saw last season some of the errors that he made, some of the sailing of balls that, hey, I think it's a great point. Maybe it's a footwork thing, and I'm just not savvy enough on the quarterbacks to pick up on it that way. There was nothing behind him that was really nipping at his heels. Davis Bevel
No.
started one game, played primarily in that one game, and against Texas, we all know that game, lost 49-0, and against TCU, where Dillon Gabriel initially got hurt, and it was awful. It was just such a bad, terrible, sad experience
No
for
good,
everyone.
very bad day.
Yeah, no good, very bad day in a lot of ways. For multiple weeks on end, it was hard. And those maybe not having that kind of competitive depth behind him is what led a little bit to, complacency. Maybe that's what happens there. You're not taking care of your footwork as much because you're not watching a guy every day with better footwork than you, or who's working harder than you. Better is not necessarily true, but who's working just as hard to be where you are, who's coming for your spot. That's going to lead us into our 2023 conversation, because nipping at those heels is superstar 5-star freshman Jackson Arnold, and he is about as good as it gets when it comes to prospects, guys. Different kind of arm, different kind of even athleticism, with a larger build than Dillon brings. Obviously not the experience, but it changes the game, doesn't it? Mason, you're someone who again is high on the kind of season that Dillon's going to have this year. Do you think that brings a little different kind of motivation? Because I think competition is good at every position. Competition breeds the best in everyone.
Competition's great. People forget Dillon won the job at UCF because of competition. He went out there and won the job because he was the better quarterback. And he can show, and I think he'll thrive in a situation where he has someone nipping at his heels like Jackson Arnold, who I think OU fans need to kind of look at it this way. It's kind of like the Dark Knight analogy to me. Dillon Gabriel's not the quarterback you may want right now, but he's the quarterback you need, right? Like Jackson Arnold, everybody wants to see the superstar 5-star freshman who looks like he's going to be an NFL quarterback in 3 years. Like everybody wants to see that guy, but not yet, right? Like maybe give it a second. Give the kid a chance to take a breath, understand his role, understand the offense, instead of being thrown out there against, say, Cincinnati in week 4 because we win 3 games, but we start off a little slow, right? Like maybe have a longer leash with Dillon and let him figure some stuff out, maybe work out some rust that he needs to. And that's the way I feel about it. And I think Dillon rises to the occasion. I really do. I think he has the opportunity to really make a statement this season and show that he's a solid quarterback and he knows what it takes to win at the college level, at a high college level at that. I think Dillon's got a really good shot to show some people that he's a dude.
Yet another year in the system for Dillon Gabriel, and this time probably with the most heat on the seat that he's ever felt.
Sure.
Because he won that job, and then at UCF when he lost it, it was because of injury, and he just sort of moved on from the program after that, right? Matt, what do you think about the idea of, we hear it's almost like OU media is priming us for it. These Jackson Arnold packages. Like, oh, well, even you want to get him out there in competitive situations. I hear that from every single person. What do you think of that idea? It sounds like we're getting primed for the Jackson Arnold appearances now. I don't know what to think of it. So you tell me.
Sure. I think BV had a good quote in a presser the other day. He said that DG is the undisputed number 1 but he won't be here next year. I think that tells you a lot that, hey, this is DG's last year. There's a reason why DG was brought in. He's got 11,000 yards that he's thrown in his 3 seasons, 2 at UCF and obviously 1 with OU, and has a chance to become top 10 in college football history for most yards thrown. So there's a lot of good experience that DG brings, especially with the offense and his experience. I think another year is only going to help him. But you hope to see Jackson Arnold in the first 2 games. Hopefully it's a blowout against Arkansas State early and often. Hopefully it's a blowout nice and early against Tulsa, maybe potentially SMU, who I think will be a stronger opponent. But you hope to see Jackson Arnold in these 3 games. There's a reason he's brought in. He's got a different skill set, definitely more of a dual threat running quarterback like we've seen in Kyler, like we've seen in Baker, has that ability, super athletic. So he's going to bring another style of offense to Jeff Levy's system that DG doesn't have. But you do want to see him early and often, maybe some of those packages in the first 3 games, but definitely should temper our expectations unless DG and unless OU loses a couple games right off the bat. But don't expect to see Jackson Arnold too much this year. We're saving him for the SEC next year and beyond.
I have something on the packages when you're done, Mark.
No, you go. Go ahead.
Okay, so a lot of people probably just disappointedly got done watching the Swamp Kings documentary, and if you go back and you watch that, think of the quarterback. Ryan Leaf, was that who it was? No, who was their quarterback that started started in front of Chris Leak? It was Chris Leak. So Chris Leak was starting. They had packages for Tim Tebow. Why? Because he was the highly touted freshman, the 5-star freshman, the kid that everybody wanted, the kid that everybody was going to see, the future of Florida football, the savior of Florida football. They got him on the field however they could. I feel like that's going to be a similar situation with Jackson Arnold. Yeah, you're going to trot Dillon out there, and he's going to be your quarterback for 85% of the plays. But that 15 is what everybody's waiting on. That 15% is what they want to see. So that's kind of something I equate that to when you mentioned the packages. That's what kind of clicked in my head.
No, absolutely. I think that there's 2 risks that you run there, right? The risk of it fails and suddenly it's like, all right, we can't put our freshman on the field. We got to stick with Dillon, and we're just back in this position of, all right, he'll be ready next year, but it just wasn't ready. He wasn't ready. He doesn't have the speed down yet, whatever it is. Or the situation that I think is a little bit more likely, because these are going to be schemed up, scripted offensive plays, it's going to look pretty good. Like Jackson Arnold's going to come in and play pretty well, and you're going to see some of that same quarterback controversy from the stands that we saw a few years back with Caleb Williams and Spencer Rattler. Except I don't expect Dillon to play badly. Like even the mistakes that we talk about from last year, if he makes 30% less, we win 2 more games down the stretch. Like that's unfortunate that that's the case, but these games come down to a play here and a play there. And enough of those were Dillon Gabriel that if he cuts it down, there's no reason to call for anyone else. Matt, you're scrunching your face at me. I said a lot of words.
I just think that the overall defense is also going to be better, which is going to help. I think they're going to create more turnovers. I know OU's defense was last or one of the last in 3rd down conversions, giving up as well. I think that's going to change, which will give more opportunities to the offense. I think the wide receiver group is still a little up in the air. I mean, we talked about Anthony and Jalil Farouk, but there's still some unknowns within that group, the offensive line and the running back group. A little bit different than last year. So I think defense is overall going to improve. That will help. You just hope that another step or 2 goes up and those 1-possession games goes into our favor. And like Mason said earlier, I mean, we could have easily been 9-3 last season if it wasn't for a few possessions or the defense getting some stops. So I'm not going to put all the blame on DG last year. I think Jeff Levy's play calling was also not the best at critical moments in the game. So again, not going to put all the blame on DG. Again, he does have to execute the offense. But I think the play calling has to also be better from Jeff Lebby.
Mason, go.
What was the question? Or
Matt,
are we
what was
just
the
spouting
question?
off? Are we just spouting off?
No,
here?
it's okay. It's okay. Basically just
Well, so
do you think that like the juice is worth the squeeze with some of those packages if it starts going really well, even though we all think Dillon Gabriel is actually going to play pretty well? Does it create a controversy that doesn't need to be created? I sort of think no. I think that this team has a pretty good dynamic, and you could tell something was off that year with Caleb and Spencer.
Yeah.
But man, does undisputed number one no longer become that once you drop a game to Texas, for example?
yeah, I don't like the idea of Jackson Arnold packages. I'd rather just get him in games when you're up big and give the kid some opportunities, give him some drives under his belt that way. And like, that's your play time. That's what you show. Like, I don't think it's worth risking Dillon's psyche to go in and out and have the home crowd just cheer massively when Jackson comes in and freak out. Like, that's not going to do anybody any good, right? I just don't. So ride with Dillon. And look, I'm a Dillon supporter, like we've said, but look, if we go out and he starts like Spencer Rattler started that year, and you know how we were told, oh, we're undefeated, don't worry about it. Nah, man. If the offense doesn't look good, they're going to put somebody in there who can run the offense and make it look good. That's what they're going to do. And I support that. I wholeheartedly do. I think Dillon's a different quarterback and a different guy than what Spencer Rattler was, so it's probably not a fair comparison at all. But people can see how the situations can be similar. But to answer your
two quarterbacks who both think they should be the starting quarterback in some ways. But go ahead.
To answer your question, I don't think the juice is worth the squeeze. I think if you're going to put Jackson Arnold in the game, put him in the game, let him run Jeff Lebby's offense. Don't put him in the game to run a limited playbook and just a certain number of plays and scripts that are his packages. Give him free reign to be a quarterback, not a gimmick.
Right. I'm really, really interested to see what they do, what Jeff Lebby does with the position, how both of them end up performing. I just have no idea what it looks like if Oklahoma goes, let's say we're undefeated going into Texas, but Dillon throws 2 picks early. Who knows, man? Who knows? Because it's a lever that we haven't seen Brent able to pull just yet. So it'll be a very interesting, I think, perspective into how does Brent Venables view the position? How does Jeff Lebby view the position? And how do they view these particular guys? Because one thing that we haven't hit on too much is part of the reason Dillon Gabriel was such a godsend last year, warts and all, was he knows the offense. And we watched the spring game 2 seasons ago and saw how much better he knew the offense than Nick Evers and the other guys. And we watched it this past spring, and personally, he had the grasp of the offense, and Jackson Arnold was still a freshman playing ball, right? It's nothing against him. That comes with time.
Yeah, a freshman who was there for 4 months, right? Yeah, it's 100%.
Right. A freshman who's been there for 4 months learning and a month in pads, right? Something like that, throwing against sort of live if you're a quarterback. I think it's Dillon's, man, but if there's turmoil, there's a fun alternative that we haven't had during the Dillon Gabriel era yet.
I think that's right. I think it goes back to Spencer and Caleb, because the fans want Jackson Arnold if things go wrong. I mean, they were literally chanting for Caleb Williams during that game. And that talks again to what you guys mentioned. If that starts happening, that destroys your starting quarterback psyche. And so the fans, if they don't see enough offense, even though you did say Spencer Rattler was undefeated, but what they were scoring like 13, 20 points a game, it just looked abysmal, right? So you needed that juice. If there's an opportunity, and like Mason said, Jackson Arnold's the guy and he's ready and he can grasp the offense better than DG. Again, I don't see that happening unless just something goes completely awry. I think all full send DG. I think he's going to take a big step this year, but the fans start calling for it. It's going to put a lot of pressure on BV and Jeff Levy to make a decision.
You can say a lot of things negatively about OU fans and their passion and their energy. One thing you can't knock OU fans for, they know what good quarterback play looks like. And if they see it on the field and it doesn't look good, trust them, they know. You're not fooling anybody.
The collective is pretty good at that. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you trot out Dillon and he doesn't perform up to snuff, the fans are going to let you know. The student section is going to let you know. Everybody's going to let you know because we're not dumb. We see the product on the field. That's what you show us. That's what we buy tickets for. And if it's not good enough, we know what good enough looks like. And we aren't afraid to tell you. So.
And I think it's going to be plenty good enough. Truly. But there's so many question marks as far as replacing guys in the skill positions along the offensive line that, hey, who knows? Who knows truly? And if it's not enough, if he's not able to gel with any of these other guys, there's that 5-star. There's that 5-star. So one last question. If anything were to happen to Jackson Arnold and Dillon Gabriel, so to Jackson Arnold after something happened to Dillon Gabriel, who do you guys want to see take the field for the Oklahoma Sooners? Mason, go.
Calvin Klein underwear model, General Booty. Let's just trot him out there, man. You know, because I've seen what Davis
the underwear.
Yes, I've seen what Davis Bevel has to offer, and folks, I can promise you he didn't improve in the offseason. I know what Davis Bevel brings me, and it ain't nothing. I don't want to see anymore. I'm done with Davis Bevel. All due respect. I hope you have a fun time dating the softball players or player singular and enjoy your life that way. But my brother, my brother, you should be lucky you even get handed a jersey. That's where I'm at with Davis Bevel.
McAnn, need your answer on this one. If something happens to Dillon and Jackson, who do the Sooners turn to?
No, the Sooners are going to be in trouble if both of those guys go down. Let's knock on some wood because we definitely don't want to see what happened last year. I think it has to be General Booty. Might as well give the guy a shot. He had some great seasons in JUCO before transferring, so at least he's got the experience of doing so. Again, JUCO D1 is going to be completely different, but why not give him a shot? I'm definitely not trusting Davis Bevel to go out there and throw a football. We saw what happened in the Texas game last year. So I'll take a pass. I'll go with General Booty and that new underwear, which I'm going to have to buy. I'm not going to lie. I'm just going to have to. So
I love it. That's going to get us going into the rest of the guys segment. You guys have already mentioned General Booty, the NIL revolutionary himself, and Davis Bevel, the redshirt senior transfer. I don't think he was listed as a redshirt senior when he came, or a redshirt junior when he came aboard last year, but that's processing in the making, folks. And last but not least, on the roster, listed as a quarterback, redshirt sophomore, Jacob Switzer. And that is not a typo. I did not read something by accident. He is the grandson of the king himself, transferred to Oklahoma from Southeastern Louisiana State in the offseason. He's not going to play, but if you want to go throw some NIL money at a Fanatics create a jersey, I think a Switzer jersey is probably as cool as you could do. My surprise outside the box choice is Jaron Kanek played quarterback in high school, baby.
Dude, I was about to say I'd rather see freaking Gavin Freeman play quarterback than Davis Bevel. I can't. If we
lose the two guys and General Booty wasn't good enough to beat out Davis Bevel last season, he's got a future in modeling.
Yeah,
I'm sure he does. He's great. Did you see him on the horse? It was
I
good.
did.
It was so good. But Give me Jaron Kanek, and we're running the ball a ton. He's the Tim Tebow for this offense.
Facts. I'm fine with that. If I see Davis Bevel on the field this season, I riot.
Man, I hope we don't.
At any point, I don't care if we're winning by 50. If I see Davis Bevel on the field, I riot. Just plain and simple, I do. I riot.
All those snaps need to be Jackson Arnold's.
Everyone. 1,000,000%.
Everyone.
A million
Every single
percent.
one. Everyone.
1,000,000%.
All right, guys. Final thoughts from you, Matt Gann, on the quarterback position headed into 2023 for the Program Guys Positional Preview Podcast.
Yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward. I have all the confidence in the world in DG. Another year in the system. Going to have to figure out some of the skill positions, but have all the faith that DG will take at least another step up from his game last year. Really looking forward to see what he brings and what the offense brings as well.
This position is very much not in turmoil. As a position that has been in turmoil, I guess, for the past couple years. After Caleb left, I guess, or even during Caleb's time when he took over the job from Spencer. So, really,
Rush 3, drop 8, man.
Yeah,
we're having a hard night.
1,000,000%. So Sooner fans should feel very good with what they have in that room, at least with the top two. And I think it's going to be a really fun year. It'll be intriguing for sure because we've already laid out the path to get Jackson Arnold on the field in a starting capacity. Be interesting to see if we get there. God willing, I hope we don't. But if we do, we know the path to get there.
I think Dillon Gabriel has to be the starting quarterback for this team to have the kind of year we want them to have. I think the most likely scenario, if we see Jackson Arnold, is that the year has not gone very well. And it's something we have to turn to change the tide of the season, similar to that Spencer Rattler, Caleb Williams dilemma, however many years back now. I think Dillon's up to the task, but some of the mistakes that we saw last year that we discussed earlier, some footwork things, some of what I think are just physical limitations that, are the reason he was a 3-star, not a 4-star, right? Stuff like that. You can't teach height, and he doesn't have height. If he's able to find a way around some of those obstacles, I think we're in line for a safely like a 35 touchdown season, 10 more than what we saw last year. I think there's a lot of talent all over the field. It's new faces and new places, but a lot of talent all over the field. Another year in the system, another year of comfortability with a guy like Andrew Rame. And let's see what he's got, because this is it. BV said he's got 1 year left in the offense, and Dillon Gabriel has 1 year of eligibility left after this. So they're saying right now, this is it for you. This is your last season as the quarterback at Oklahoma. We will Jaden Davis you. We will do it. So let's go see it come through, man. Let's go from Big 12 Newcomer of the Year to Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year and really make a run of that last season, not only break into the top 10 of the all-time college football passing yardage, but really smash through and see how many spots you can take. I would love to see that out of Dillon Gabriel. I think the best year possible for the Oklahoma Sooners involves that outcome. And that's going to do it for the quarterback position episode of the 2023 Program Guys Positional Preview Podcast. I am your host on this mini journey series, and there is a written article attached to this. You should go read on programguys.com. Every one of these preview pods has had a written article attached to it. You should absolutely check them all out. They're pretty good. I don't know who wrote them, but he did a pretty good job on them. I was very pleased to be joined today by my friends Mason Prince and Matt Gann. Mason, tell us where we can find you.
Find me at Mason Prince TV on Twitter or X, whatever you want to do. I also Program Guys with a Z everywhere else, man.
Everywhere else, Matt Gann.
That's all that matters.
Find you?
Program Guys with a Z, everything, Spotify, YouTube, Apple, everything you can imagine. That's where you need to find me.
I love it. He doesn't plug his own.
No.
Sketchy.
No,
All right, guys.
Private.
I'm Mark Hall. Thanks for joining us tonight. Go follow us on all of our socials. You know us at Program Guys with a Z. That's all we got. Mason Prince, take us out.
59-14. Keep pushing it, baby.
3, 2, 1.
There's not one guy, one person in the history of this program that's bigger than the program.
What's better than this? Guys being